very quickly here, I want to move through this, just trying to lay a foundation so we can look at Columbus. To understand racism, Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson, I'm going to show you some information from Dr. Claude Anderson and Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, so we can lay a foundation here. In Powernomics, pages 3 through 7, he lays out a basic understanding of what race is, and after the concept of race is created, then racism comes. The term race first appeared with the emergence of the slave practice in the 16th century. 16th century is dealing with the 1500s for those that don't study history a lot. And then also BC counts down, AD counts up. BC means before Christ. You may also see BCE, which means before the Common Era. AD does not mean after death. AD means Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. You may see it expressed as CE, Common Era. Okay. All right. The term race first appeared with the emergence of the slave practice in the 16th century. Records indicate the word race was selected because the various European slave trading nations were in a contest competing to profit from the mineral and human wealth of Africa. The prize for winning the race was the power to develop Western civilization using the wealth extracted out of Africa. Okay, so coming out of the Dark Ages, Europe was land poor, people poor, and resource poor. They're trying to look for mineral wealth. They're trying to look for spices, things of this nature. That you can take spices and sell them in Asia and make a lot of money. They just come out of the Black Death, the bubonic plague, that hits from 1347 to 1400. Europe loses about 1/3 of their population. Somewhere around 75 million people are wiped out by this plague. Okay, so these are some of the circumstances leading up to August 3rd, 1492, when Columbus sails. He has 4 voyages. We're going to go through, look a little bit at the 4 voyages, look at the aftermath as well, okay? And this is just like this gives you a good overview of it for you to go do more research. I encourage people to get the book, Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust. Slavery is subtitled, Slavery and the Rise of European Capitalism, by Dr. John Henry Clark. And Dr. Leonard Jeffries wrote the foreword to this as well. Okay, now, to understand, very briefly, to understand racism occurs when a race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, and resources and use this to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people, okay? In America, Europeans control about 87% of the wealth. African Americans control about 1/2 of the wealth, at best 2%. So by definition, we don't have enough power to be racist to anybody. We can be bigots, we can be prejudiced, we can discriminate, things like this. And bigotry is just, you can have hatred towards people, what have you, but racism is a power structure that occurs group to group. It comes out of European white supremacy. European white supremacy being the ideology that Europeans are superior, their culture is superior, their religion is superior, they can do what they want, they can go around the world and rape the land because they found it and claim it in the name of their God. This is what Columbus does. Claims land in the name of his God and then becomes a devil to the people, okay? And when you look at work from Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, usually in, I don't think I have it in this one because this is a shorter presentation, but page 2, the introduction of the ISIS papers, she deals with a basic understanding of what racism is and how racism permeates itself throughout all aspects of life through media and religion and sex and entertainment, things of this nature, law. Okay, so we have to understand this, and we have to understand also that when the Moors go in, two important things. When the Moors go into Europe, they intermix with Europeans. Okay, and Europeans see that that offspring is no longer European. When they start to circumnavigate the globe, once they regain the concept of longitude and latitude, which the Moors reintroduced to them, they start to circumnavigate the globe. They start seeing that the majority of the people in the world are not European. And when they intermix with those people, they see when that baby comes out, it's not European. So they realize that they have to put something in place to preserve genetic white survival, because they realize that they keep intermixing with other people, especially African people, okay, that they could be genetically wiped off the face of the earth, all right? So racism is a power structure to preserve European white supremacy and genetic white survival. This is what we have to understand. This is how we have to look at it. And it has nothing to do with not liking people. Unfortunately, people confuse racial harmony with racism. Those are 2 entirely different things. All right, now, to understand 1492, Brother Kaba Kamene talks about how to understand how we got in this predicament we're in, to understand where we are, we have to understand August 3rd, 1492, Columbus sailing on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. To understand that, you have to understand January 2nd, 1492, with the Moors losing control of Grenada, the last stronghold in Spain. To understand that, you have to understand them going into the Iberian Peninsula, today known as Spain and Portugal, in 711 AD, and conquering the Vandals and the Visigoths, things of this nature, and the 800-year occupation of these Africans known as Moors. So help lay a foundation here so we can understand Cristobal Colon, or Christopher Columbus as we know to call him. We have to look at the Moors some. And okay, this was a famous painting of a Moor right here. And if you read Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, that's one of the best books. It's out of print. Go online. Actually ordered it right from his website. His wife, his widow, runs his website. I forgot the name of it, but you could Google it. It may be drivanvansertima.com or something like that. I can't remember the exact name of it. Because on Amazon.com, a lot of those copies will cost you $200 to $300. It's out of print. I don't even take my copy out the house. Seriously, because it's expensive. Okay, let's see. I've dealt with this in some of my other presentations. A couple of my other presentations. These are the official flags. This is the national flag of the island of Corsica, which is a French island, and this is the national flag of the Italian island of Sardinia. Okay, on their national flags, they have Moors' heads on there. Okay, because Moors were in these areas hundreds of years ago. All right, and it took a huge effort to expel the Moors out. Originally on these flags, the headband was a blindfold to signify that they had been captured, they were a prisoner. But, you know, to be more politically correct and things of this nature, they turned that blindfold into a headband. You see the earring, because a lot of the Moors wore earrings as well. This one right here, if you Google Sardinia's official website, because what happened was I was preparing for an interview with Rinoko Rashidi. And one of the books that he wrote is, this is one of his most recent ones, Black Star, The African Presence in Early Europe, okay? And this deals with the Moors all throughout Europe. He has a lot of pictures in here, and Rinoko has a personal library of, personal collection of about 20,000 to 25,000 photographs he's taken himself. He's been to about 103 countries and islands all around the world, so he documents the African presence wherever he goes. But I was preparing for my interview with him, okay? So I was reading through his book, and he had pictures in here dealing with Corsica and Sardinia, and I think the flag. So I go online to do more research, and then I find Sardinia's official website. It's Sardinia Turismo. I find their official website, so I'm going through looking at their website, and in the upper right-hand corner of the website on every page, they have this little symbol, but it looks like a little decal. It looks like decoration. If you don't know that that's the national flag, you won't realize what it is. Okay, but because I saw what it was, when I looked at it, because I saw that flag first, when I looked at it, I said, that's the national flag. Today, 2013, that flag still has the African heads of these Moors heads on them, these heads of these African men, okay? So you can check that out. You can go to answers.com and just type in Sardinia, S-A-R-D-I-N-I-A. It'll give you this information and show you the flag. You can also do the same thing for Corsica as well. All right, so who are the Moors? A lot of, there's some confusion about who the Moors were, and then every week I get somebody on YouTube telling me that the Moors were white, and the first thing I ask them is, what is the etymological derivation of the word Moor? Usually I don't hear back from them after that. But the Moors' ancestors were known as the Garamantes. The Garamantes are going to be in North Africa. They're going to be in Sudan. They're going to be in Egypt. They're going to be throughout North Africa. Hannibal, that we read about from Carthage, was Garamante. St. Augustine, as well, was Garamante. But they're going to be these are African people, okay, in North Africa. Okay, these are not dark-skinned Caucasians. These are not Europeans with tans. These are an African people. The Moors, according to George G.M. James, have stolen legacy with the custodians of the ancient Egyptian mystery system. These teachers will bring Europe out of the Dark Ages. How many people are familiar with Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James? Okay. He talks about the Moors some in there as well. All right, now, the word Moor, I always try to take people to the dictionary, okay? The word Moor is derived from the Greek word moros, M-A-U-R-O-S. You may also see M-O-R-O-S, and it literally means black or a very dark color, okay? This is in Greek. The Romans picked this up, and the Romans adopted the word and called them Mori, M-A-U-R-I. You may also see Moorish, M-A-U-R-I-S-H. Okay, the Maori were a Northwest African people who were very dark-skinned. The Romans will refer to the region of Northwest Africa as Mauritania. At one time, they called all of Northwest Africa Mauritania. All right, and Mauritania is Latin. It means the land of the black-skinned people. You also see that word Moorish as well. The black-skinned inhabitants they encountered in Africa, they're using these names to denote these people they're coming in contact with. If you look at pages 5, 27, and 187 in Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Dr. Sertimo, you'll see this information. Okay, Romans later adopted the word as a reference for the black-skinned people. Something got mixed up here. The Romans later adopted the word as a reference for the black-skinned people that inhabited the areas that they were encountering. Okay, so check that out. Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Dr. Ivan Sertimo. He has essays from Runoko Rashidi, Dr. John G. Jackson, Dr. Jose Pimenta Bay, Jan Carew, Dr. Wayne Chandler, dealing with the Moors. It's one of the most comprehensive books on the Moors you'll ever find. Okay, now, some words that are similar in sound in Spanish, Italian, and French, and there are a lot more. These are just a few, okay? Moreno in Spanish means dark complexion, now meaning brunette or dark hair, okay? Mora in Spanish originally meant a Moorish woman, now means blackberry, okay? Because when people say the Moors were white, we can look at things etymologically and prove, first of all, no, they weren't. Then you can look at the description that people gave of the Moors. And, Runoko talks about how they were described in literature as black as pitch, black as a crow, black as night, nothing white about them but their teeth. You are going to have some light-skinned Moors. These were majority African people. You are going to have some light-skinned Moors because you're going to have some Africans who intermix with Libyans, and then their offspring are going to be lighter skinned, things like this. Sometimes referred to as Berbers. Okay, Berber is a trick word coming from Barbary as well. But the original Berbers were an African people as well. Now today, just like the inhabitants of Egypt today, are not the majority of them, are not the ancient Egyptians. Okay, so people say, well, Egyptians are Arabs. Well, that's who's there today. These are not the original people. Okay, so, the Romans often, actually, when you look at the Arabs, if you read Golden Age of the Moor, and you look at the Arabs, when they talk about Arab texts, Arab writings, they usually did not use the word Moor to denote Africans, they used the word Berber. Okay, so, now you have like a whole lot of confusion. So you have people saying, well, Berbers are not Africans, and Africans were not, these black people were not in North Africa, these were Arabs in North Africa, and the Moors were not African, things like this. So and the History Channel and the National Geographic don't help either. Okay, because I was watching a documentary, The Dark Ages, okay? It was a good documentary from the History Channel, 2-hour documentary dealing with the Dark Ages. And when they show the Moors going into the Iberian Peninsula, 711 AD, they have them looking like Arabs, like lighter skinned Arabs. Now, because you had Arabs who were Africans also, because the term Arab is a tricky term. Arab is not a race of people or anything like that. You had Africans, black Africans who were Arab, okay, because that's a culture. But they showed these lighter skinned people looking like the Arabs today at the liquor stores and gas stations. They showed them going into the Iberian Peninsula. No, you did have Arabs with the Moors going in, but you're going to have a darker skinned people, and you're also, what you're going to find at this time, you're going to find some Arabs who are African as well. Okay, so the term Arab is like a very tricky term. All right, Mora in Italian also means blackberry, not the smartphone, but the actual fruit. Okay, blackberry. Then you have Morassad, I'm not sure I pronounced that, but it's French. That means dark skin or blackamoor. And you have Morillon in French, means black grape as well. These are just a few. If you read Golden Age of the Moor, they have a lot more. I'm just giving you some examples, okay? All right, now, Cordoba is one of the cities that the Moors are in as well. One of the Spanish cities that they're in. And in the city of Cordoba, in the 10th century, there were 1,600 mosques, 900 public baths, 213 middle-class homes, 60,000 mansions, 80,000 shops, 20,000 shops were books. Wealthier homes had 2 floors, a library, a garden, running water. Population in Cordoba was 500,000 to 1 million. This is in Moorish Spain, okay? This is in what was known in history as Moorish Spain. The Moors are going to refer to Spain as Al-Andalus. Okay, Al-Andalus meaning to walk in the spiritual light. And when you see that prefix Al, that's Spanish and Arabic, just like in alchemy. This is one of the things they're going to introduce. They're going to introduce something called alchemy. And chemi means of chemet. And today we call it chemistry. But this is something that the Moors are going to introduce. England had barely that amount in its entire borders. England was steeped in squalor and filth. When you study Europeans at this time, not only were about 90% of Europeans illiterate, but they were filthy, okay? And this is no exaggeration. The priests were the ones who had the most knowledge. The priests were the ones who were the most literate. They were said to be the cleanest people, and they took a bath once a year. All right. When the Vandals and the Visigoths come in, and these are the people who the Moors are fighting when they go in 711 AD. These were some filthy people. They were more barbaric than like the Romans, the Vandals and the Visigoths. Okay, and they're going to shut down. They cast Europe into the Dark Ages. But in Europe at this time, it was said to be vain for you to take a bath, and you could be killed for taking a bath. So when you read Golden Age of the Moor, if you watch some lectures by Dr. Jose Pimenta Bay, who's one of the baddest scholars on the history of the Moors, he used to teach classes on the history of the Moors at Temple University. He's at Berea College now. If you look at some of the work from Brother Kava Kamenei, Booker T. Coleman, some of his lectures on the Moors, you'll see this. And also on the History Channel. They talk about some of this as well. And one thing I noticed is when they do like reenactments, they clean the people up in Europe. But if you actually watch some of the documentaries, they'll talk about how filthy it was. This is why disease spread so quickly. Okay, they didn't bathe and had a contempt for bathing. Terence McLaughlin wrote a book called The History of Dirt. The monasteries were considered the cleanest places because they changed their clothes once per year. They only bathed 1 time per year. Okay, now, if we look at some of the agriculture, because the Moors are going to introduce science, mathematics, they're going to introduce astronomy, they introduce agriculture, all different types of musical instruments, like the harp, and then the Europeans are going to take the harp, encase it in wood, turn it on the side, and this is where the piano comes from. They're going to introduce bagpipes into Europe. They introduced rice to Europe in the 10th century. It was introduced by the 10th century. Cotton was introduced by the 9th century in Europe. The Moors dug canals and channels to irrigate the farmlands and provide running water for thousands of houses and mosques, places and public baths. They will increase the fertility of the soil with their new methods, tools, plants, and manures. They're going to introduce, new types of foods and things like this, and new methods for tilling the soil in agriculture. Okay, so I mean, these Africans actually saved Europe. If it had not been for them, the bubonic plague and disease, all that stuff would have wiped them out. And I don't mean to sound harsh, but I wish we never taught them, because what's going to come? What's going to come after we teach them, man, is going to be disastrous. Okay, they're going to introduce food preservation and storage techniques. They could store wheat for up to 100 years. They would dry food like figs, plums, cherries, and apples, so they would be edible for up to 100 years. Moors go into Sicily and Crete in 827 and are there until 961 AD. And they'll set up a postal system, become the backbone of the metal, wood, leather, wool, and the silk industry. They introduce a sewage system, okay, because Europe didn't have a sewage system. They're going to introduce a sewage system, latrines with hot and cold running water, about the 10th century AD. They'll also introduce lighted streets. as well. And something I was trying to find here. Let me see here. Okay. All right, let's continue quickly. Okay, let's continue quickly here. Okay, so what's going to happen? We all know the Moors are going to lose power. You're going to have, depending upon who's in power at the time in Spain and other European countries, saying that you got some information from the Moors could get you in big trouble. Other times, it could be all right. What happens is they realize that to advance, they have to let some of this information come in. You're going to have the priests start learning this information from the Moors, because the Moors are open and they say knowledge is for everybody. So if you want to learn this, we'll teach you, okay? And you're going to have the priests start translating these works into Latin, into different languages, putting their names on it like they wrote it themselves, okay? The same thing like Aristotle did when he gains access to the libraries in Egypt, and because he was the tutor of Alexander the Great for 12 years. So, well, Alexander the Greek, there's nothing great about him. But when Alexander invades Kemet in 332 BC, you know, Aristotle gets free reign of the libraries, and next thing you know, he's the author of like 1,000 books and manuscripts on stuff he wasn't even writing about before he came in there. Okay, so you're going to have something like this here, all right? And what happens is you have something called the Reconquista, which starts in 722 AD. This is the effort of the Spaniards to take back control of Spain. And you're going to have forces in Europe, especially Spain, galvanizing themselves to expel the Moors. The more, you know, you're going to have various Moors groups of Moors who start to become more fragmented. They intermix with Europeans, have European children. Some of them have European family members, things like this, and they're going to side with their European family members in some disputes against the Moors. They start becoming fragmented. You also have some of them start to become more materialistic, and as Dr. Jose Pimentel puts it, he says they exchange Moorish virtues for Spanish vices, because the term Moor had a lot of, even though you had people that wanted to expel them, it still had a lot of respect because they had the knowledge. You're going into a land where about 90% of people are illiterate. They don't have medicine. You're taking in medicine, you're doing surgery, you're removing eye cataracts, you're removing kidney stones, things of this nature. The Moors are going to set up standards for doctors, like for like exams that they have to take, things of this nature. Okay, so this information totally saves Europe. But what's going to happen is that in 1322 to 1465 AD, legal prohibitions against Moorish or Muslims, what's going to happen is they're going to put prohibitions on the type of professions that Moors can have, because they're trying to break their stronghold, they're trying to reduce their ability to make money, okay? So the prohibitions are put on them. They can no longer be surgeons, pharmacists, physicians, 1322 to 1465 and 1412. They put prohibitions on them. They can no longer be merchants, carpenters, tailors, butchers, things of this nature. Also, various contracts that people may have with the Moors. You may owe them money and things like this. Those contracts are no longer enforceable, okay? And when the Moors are expelled, you're going to have 800,000 books and manuscripts of the Moors that are burned. They're taken out into the like public, public square and burned as well, because they're trying to erase the history of it. But it's so deep they can't erase it. You have it in the language, you have it in their bloodline, you have statues of the Moors. You have another thing is that a lot of your early European universities were created to study the Moorish science text. University of Naples, University of Toledo, Oxford University, Cambridge University. We know University of Salamanca in Spain. these are going to be started to study the teachings that the Moors took in, and a lot of them is written in their charter. This is why they were started. Okay, so Europe owes a tremendous debt to the Moors, to these Africans. Okay, all right. So what's going to happen is they're going to be expelled out of different areas. In some areas, some people are going to stay behind. Others, people are going to locate. You're going to have about 1 million that settle in the south of France. And my thing is like, you really don't hear about Africans in France. They say, I'm sure they didn't just intermix with themselves, So, but if you read Golden Age of the Moor, they have a lot of information in there. Okay, we fast forward now. They lose control of Grenada January 2nd, 1492. The Moorish leader Boabdil. And then August 2nd, 1492, they're going to, Spain is going to expel what are known as the Sephardic Jews, or the Sephardim. Some of these were Africans as well. Okay, when they go in, you're going to have these Jews, and some of them are Africans, and there were even Africans there before 711 AD, because when Taharqa was a general before he becomes pharaoh in the 25th dynasty, he takes a voyage into the Iberian Peninsula as well. And even before then, around 1000 BC, there's a voyage. You have Africans going in there as well. So we were already there. This is like the third really known time of Africans going into that area. Okay. All right. Now, Columbus it takes him about 6 years to convince King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella to fund to finance his trip. Okay, so now they've expelled the Moors. Okay, for the most part, they've broken the stronghold. They got rid of the Sephardic Jews, and he set sail August 3rd, 1492. Okay, now Columbus was born in Genoa, Italy, born August 26th. Somewhere between August 26th to October 31st, 1451, dies in 1506. Okay, dies a couple of years after his last voyage. All right, his actual name is in Italian is Cristoforo Colombo. Okay, in Spanish is Cristobal Colon, and it's Americanized or anglicized to Christopher Columbus. All right, but he was a Genoese navigator and explorer whose transatlantic voyages opened the way for European exploration, exploitation, and colonization of the Americas. He began his career as a young seaman in the Portuguese merchant marine. Also, we find him sailing around the west coast of Africa in 1482, picking up slaves as well. And we see the Portuguese around 1441, 1442. On the west coast of Africa, picking up slaves as well. All right, now we talked about the Moors reintroducing the concept of longitude and latitude. They're going to introduce spherical globes into Europe, atlases, almanacs. They have almanacs that talk about what type of people are around the world, what type of food grows around the world, things of this nature. All right, so even though the myth or what people talk about Columbus and back at this time is that they thought the world was flat. But there's evidence that at least some of them knew that the world was round because of the evidence that the Moors introduced. Okay, I was watching some information on the History Channel where they were saying that they said most people in Europe knew that the world was round because the Greeks had proved this. But once again, now here's the thing, most of these Europeans are illiterate. So, my thing is, okay, how did they know that it's round? Okay, but I know some of them did, because some of them could read, things of this nature. All right, now, what was Columbus looking for? Okay, he was convinced that he'll find a new and lucrative sea route to the Orient by sailing west to find silk, tea, spices, gold, etc. This was big business in the 15th century. Okay, he was trying to find another route to Asia. Okay, and you could, if you get teas and spices, you can take it to Asia and sell it and make a lot of money. They had lost control of their route because of the fall of Constantinople. And he was searching for, he wanted to go west to go east. He figured he could go west to go east, okay? So he was searching for a route to do this. He intended to chart a western sea route to China, India, and the fabled gold and spice islands of Asia. Instead, he landed in the Bahamas, becoming the first European to explore the Americas since the Vikings set up colonies in Greenland and Newfoundland during the 10th century. Europeans lost their trading route to Asia because of the fall of Constantinople to the Turks. Europe loses its, that was like the popular route for them to take. Now, the Vikings, we know, are here, 1000 AD. You have Leif Erikson and Eric the Viking, or Eric the Red, and they're already here, okay? So, but they're Africans where they go also. This is not talked about a lot, you know, and there were millions of African people in North, Central, and South America, as well as after 3000 BC, as well as what we call Native Americans, and you're gonna have some Asians, things like that. But there were millions of people here in North, Central, and South America. All right, okay, as we continue. Okay, he was determined to find a direct water route west from Europe to Asia, but he never did also. There's something to note as well. He never found that route he was looking for. Okay, when we look quickly at the voyages. All right, the first voyage, August 3rd, 1492, he sails on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, the three ships. He also has, he has Moors with him on these ships. On the, one of them was Nino Alonso Pena, and he was on the, I can't remember which ship he was on. But he was on one, I can't remember which ship he was on. Okay, but you have Moors on the ship. He's using nautical instruments that were introduced by the Moors as well. One of them is called an astrolabe. And if you look at Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization by Anthony Browder, he shows you a rendering of it and talks about it as well. But he's using nautical instruments that the Moors introduced. He's going to go into the Bahamas, which he calls San Salvador. Okay, he claims this is where he lands October 12th, 1492. He claims it for San Salvador means Saint Savior. Okay, he claims this in the name of Jesus the Christ. All right, but he becomes a devil to these people. All right, he claims this for Spain in the name of Jesus the Christ. He also goes into Cuba and Hispaniola. Okay, today we call Hispaniola Haiti. Okay, it was actually Haiti, A-Y-I-T-I, Haiti, but we pronounce it Haiti. Okay, second voyage, September 1493, goes to the West Indies and Boricuen, or what we today call Puerto Rico. He also goes to Jamaica as well, 1494. Third voyage, 1498, goes to Trinidad and the Venezuelan mainland in South America. Fourth voyage was from, you'll see it from like 1502 to 1504 for the fourth voyage. He goes to, because he was stranded for like a year. Okay, he goes to Panama and Honduras, okay, for the fourth voyage. This is his last voyage. All right, now, Columbus' contract with the Spanish rulers, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, was that he could keep 10% of whatever riches he found, along with the noble title and governorship of any lands he should encounter. He got the title of Admiral of the Ocean Seas, and he was like the governor of these lands that he so-called discovered as well. In the first Americans were Africans, documented evidence with Dr. David Imhotep. He talks about how 70% of the people that Columbus encounters are still African. We know you have some intermixing and you have the offspring of Native Americans, but still you have Africans all throughout these areas. So 70% of the people he encounters were still African at that time. Bartolome de las Casas was a bishop who traveled with Columbus on his voyages, and he kept a diary, and the diary became books. One of them is called Tears of the Indians. I read this back in college. And these books are deep because they deal with the treachery that was inflicted upon the indigenous people. But Bartolome de las Casas estimates that 12 million to 25 million indigenous people were killed because of Columbus. Okay, we know with the Taino, their numbers are about 250,000. When Columbus comes in contact with them, and in 2 years, their population is cut in half. Okay, and what happens is they're looking for gold, they're looking for silver, things of this nature, looking for spices, mineral wealth. So they become frustrated with the people because they aren't finding the gold. They have the people digging for it, they enslave the people, and when they aren't working fast enough or they become frustrated with them, they'll cut off their hands, they'll kill them. When you read Tears of the Indians, they talk about the torture that they inflicted upon them. They would stab pregnant women in the stomach with bayonets. They show them roasting people over fire, like a barbecue. They show them roasting people over fire, mutilating people. And the indigenous people, a lot of them could not believe that somebody could be this cruel. They never experienced anything like this before. You're gonna have some of the indigenous people committing suicide. Some of them die of disease because these Europeans bring disease with them as well. Some of them die of disease. But they're gonna go through these lands and inflict horror upon them. Okay, let me see something here.